Well, it looks like things are about to get very weird for Microsoft, or at least they have the potential to, with some of the things being floated around reportedly within Microsoft and Xbox that could see the division itself become its own subsidiary, could end up being spun off and sold, or even have a joint partnership with Microsoft. There's a lot of interesting things getting thrown around right now, and I want to take a look at where this report is coming from and some of the ramifications of this entire situation. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. Now, this is over on Reuters, who so what happened was we got a story out of the information, and this is based on like three sources they say from that I was just within Microsoft, but are familiar with the matter at hand here, and the information typically pretty good. Like their sourcing is generally very, very solid when it comes to their different reports. And in this case, Microsoft, we know, has been, especially Xbox, making the rounds a lot this week. There's a lot of stuff that they've talked about in interviews, the future of Xbox. We had the entire memo that was just published online by Asha Sharma, the 100-day reset. And that has people a bit concerned that there's studios and studio closures and layoffs, like significant layoffs, are imminent for the brand. It's really hard to say what's about to happen with Xbox. I'll say over the next year. I think going into next generation with this Project Helix, they're going to shift a lot. Like things are going to be radically different here by like 2020, midway through 2027, maybe even sooner. As we can see, this over on Reuters, Microsoft has considered spinning off Xbox. The information reports says it's considering options for its Xbox gaming unit, including a potential spinoff or restructuring as a wholly owned subsidiary. The information reported on Friday, citing three people with direct knowledge. And while the Windows maker is also weighing options such as creating a joint venture with other partners as it prepares to overhaul the unit, which could make the gaming business easier to sell, the report said. So right now, the Xbox brand or the Xbox division is deeply integrated within Windows. If you look at their finances, usually it's lumped in with like Windows and cloud and other parts of Microsoft. So in a way, it's kind of protected Microsoft, like the Xbox, this whole time within Microsoft, because it's tied to what were really like highly profitable or would generate a lot of revenue outright for the company. So if if Xbox had, according to what Ash Sharma is saying, a 3% accountability margin, it's like, oh, you have other divisions that have much higher, we'll say, accountability margins, kind of even that out a bit. So it's like everybody puts all their money into one pile and then we split it up. And like if the one person came to the table with a ton of money, everyone kind of walks away with a decent amount, right? That's kind of always been the idea here with Xbox. But the idea of spinning it off into its own subsidiary for Microsoft, they have LinkedIn, they have GitHub, sort of like that, where it would operate kind of independently from Microsoft. They'd still own it, but decisions they would make specifically or finances that would be flowing through Xbox, it would just be responsible for it kind of on its own for the most part. Microsoft, of course, would still be there, keeping an eye on things, but they wouldn't necessarily have to follow the trends of Microsoft all the time. So think about with Xbox in the past, and I'm thinking back to the Xbox One days, all right, where they introduced it as more of an entertainment device than a gaming device, despite the Xbox 360 generation being really all about games. The Kinect still kind of about games, but they're playing around with some other weird tech things there, which is fine for gaming to be creative. But you go into the Xbox One, and especially with Phil Spencer coming in, we start hearing at first about TV, but then, and Phil said this a lot, the power of the cloud. That was a lot when it came to the cloud infrastructure. And that's just because that's where Microsoft was putting their big bets at the time, and they continue along with that. But eventually we got to recently with AI, and you'll notice, oh, they were going to have Copilot become integrated with Xbox. You see it on Windows gaming side. And so because of this, you have Xbox kind of following along as opposed to doing its own thing that at times makes more sense in the gaming space. So we've talked about how the finance people on the Microsoft side tend to make decisions for Xbox that don't necessarily align with what gaming requires. Okay. And so a way to kind of solve that, yes, would be allowing Xbox to kind of go off on its own, still under the Microsoft umbrella, but not necessarily controlled or going with the flow day to day operations with Microsoft. Now, they do say that no restructuring is imminent. All the options do, though, remain on the table, the information has reported. And Xbox, of course, struggled in recent years as Microsoft's bet on subscriptions and cloud gaming failed to offset declining console sales and a shortage of blockbuster titles. So, Asha Sharma plans to increase spending to accelerate development of new Xbox titles from its most successful franchise, including Halo, Fallout, and The Elder Scrolls. And it seems that Satya Nadella and Amy Hood, who'd be calling the shots over there, have approved Sharma's plan to boost spending on top-tier game development for the fiscal year starting in July, but the budget has not been finalized and could still change. So, with this in mind, it makes sense if they are going to move to, say, spin it off into a subsidiary. And they do have, we'll just say in this case, they have plans to sell Xbox or even enter a joint venture with another larger company. And I know the immediate thought is Tencent. Tencent coming in and having 30% of Xbox, and Microsoft has 70% or so, or they can split it up further. As long as Microsoft has the controlling share of Xbox, I mean, they can play around with the numbers as much as they want, have multiple multiple people come in or companies come in and own parts of Xbox. That can get a little messy, though. Sometimes it's better just, okay, we'll have one other large company come in. It could be, I say Tencent, sure, but could be AMD. I don't know if NVIDIA is interested. I mean, they have so much money they can throw it around. Apple, I don't know. Apple and Microsoft, Apple coming in and having a pretty significant share of the company that owns Halo. That would kind of be a full circle moment from way back in the day with what Macworld and like the OG Halo being shown off there. But the plan then would be, can we make Xbox more appealing to sure sell off? And I still wonder how many companies would be all about picking up Xbox. But part of that would be, okay, we're going to make it its own thing. And that would then lead to, I mean, once you expose Xbox completely away from Microsoft, I feel like you would see a lot of cost cutting then, because it's pretty obvious. 3% accountability margin or just profit margin, that's not going to cut it. And they'd probably have to raise that significantly by offsetting a lot of cost. And yes, that then comes down to layoffs, studio closures, canceled projects. That's the thing. And one of the reasons this is so interesting is because it lines up with some of the other reporting that's already happened, this past week. So it seems like it's all kind of falling into place. And as they mention, like this stuff, it's not necessarily final. It's just options they're weighing on the table. But, from a more optimistic standpoint, I actually think it would kind of make sense for Xbox to be separated from Microsoft. Think about Sony, right? They have just Sony outright, the Sony company, but then they have PlayStation or Sony Interactive Entertainment. And PlayStation kind of just operates on its own away from, again, Sony is still technically the big company that PlayStation is under. We get numbers from Sony with their financial report, as we would, I assume, get Xbox numbers as well under Microsoft's report if they became a subsidiary. But it would give Xbox more flexibility, really, I think, just the ability to navigate gaming specifically as a gaming company and not as like an integrated arm of Microsoft, still trying to weigh out all of Microsoft's aspirations around cloud and AI, things that don't always align perfectly with sort of the art form that is gaming and just running a gaming company. So I actually think it would make a lot of sense if they can indeed pull it off. And if they do a joint venture, finding a company that also understands the advantages and disadvantages of owning a big gaming publisher like that. So something certainly to keep an eye on here as we go along, because a 100-day reset, according to Asha Sharma, that's pretty quick. Like, things would be moving here rapidly. I guess the other nice thing is they call out Elder Scrolls, Fallout, which people have been like begging for something Fallout related here. Obviously Fallout 5, but Elder Scrolls, especially with Elder Scrolls 6. I mean, those are two big properties that you feel like are, I don't want to say slam dunks, but more on the guaranteed side of being received well and generating legitimate money. And seeing a revival of, I mean, it's sad to say revival, but like a boost for Halo would be very important for the brand itself, and sure, the brand value if they're looking to like just outright sell the Xbox division, because Master Chief is still kind of that mascot for them if you look around. So interesting stuff. Certainly something to keep an eye on here as we go through this accelerated reset over the next 100 days going into 2027. Let me know what you guys think about this one, though, down below in the comments. The idea of Xbox becoming a subsidiary of Microsoft, would that make sense for them? And do you think, like, overall, the end goal is actually for Microsoft to sell Xbox as it is and just kind of walk away from this whole thing? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.